If you're standing in the backyard staring up at the night sky and wondering whether you should actually spend a few $100s on a telescope, you're not alone. Most of us have that moment of hesitation - what if I end up with a piece of glass I can't use, or worse, I'll just collect dust? It's a real fear, especially when you have a limited budget and you want every dollar to count. The last thing you want is to buy a telescope that looks impressive on paper but turns out to be a pain to set up, or one that only shows bright planets while the deep sky objects stay out of reach. You need something that genuinely works for your level of interest, fits in the space you have, and actually shows the heavens without turning you into a frustrated nighttime mechanic. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. That's why I'm digging into the Celestron NexStar 8SE. It sits in the sweet spot between entry-level hobbyist kits and the more demanding professional-grade scopes. The 8-inch Schmidt-Cassegrain Optics give you a decent aperture for both planetary and deep sky viewing, while the GoTo mount promises automated tracking. The question is whether those promises hold up in the real world and if the trade-offs make sense for your situation. First off, who would actually benefit from the NexStar 8SE? If you're a backyard astronomer who has already outgrown a small refractor or a 4-5-inch Dobsonian, and you're looking for a more portable system that still lets you catch the faint glow of the Andromeda Galaxy or the swirls of the Orion Nebula, this scope is a strong candidate. It's also a good fit if you enjoy the idea of a push-button experience. Point the hand controller at an object, let the scope do the heavy lifting, and enjoy the view without spending an hour manually aligning. Astronomy clubs often recommend the 8SE for members who need a reliable, transportable instrument for star parties, because it packs into a relatively compact case and can be set up on a firm tabletop or small Altesse tripod. Conversely, you should probably skip the NexStar 8SE if you're purely interested in occasional planet spotting and you're comfortable with a much lighter, less expensive apochromatic refractor. Those lenses can be easier on the weight budget and won't require power cables or precise polar alignment. The 8SE also isn't the first choice for someone who wants to do serious astrophotography right away. While you can attach a DSLR, the relatively narrow field of view and the need for precise tracking make long-exposure deep sky imaging a bit of a stretch for beginners. If you're on a tight budget and you're more interested in casual, once-in-a-while sessions, a simpler refractor or even a well-rated 6-inch Dobsonian might give you more bang for your buck. Let's talk about the practical strengths that matter after you unbox the thing. The first thing I'll note is the SkyAlign technology. Unlike older GoTo systems that required a bunch of stars and a painstaking alignment routine, SkyAlign lets you align on just 3 easily recognizable objects like the moon, a bright planet, or a star you can pick out with the naked eye. In my tests, doing this alignment took under 5 minutes, and the mount locked onto targets with consistent accuracy. That's a big win for anyone who doesn't want to spend half the night just getting the scope to point the right way. The 8-inch Schmidt-Cassegrain optics themselves are a major draw. They give you a focal length of 2032 mm, meaning you get a high magnification capability without having to buy an extra long tube. When I paired it with a 25 mm eyepiece, I could see the bands on Jupiter clearly and the rings of Saturn appeared crisp and detailed. For deep sky targets like the Pleiades or the Great Globular Cluster in Hercules, the aperture is big enough to gather sufficient light that you can see the individual stars without needing an extremely high magnification. In practice, that balance of aperture and focal length translates to more versatile viewing sessions. One set of glasses can handle a wide range of objects. One hidden trade-off is the weight. The whole package, including the mount and the tube, comes in at about 23 pounds. It's definitely more portable than a full-size Dobsonian of comparable aperture, but you still need a sturdy surface and a level of physical effort to maneuver it. Setting it up on a rooftop patio, for instance, required a small step ladder and a helper's hands to get the mount steady. If you live in a small apartment and can only store a telescope in a closet, you'll have to be comfortable with the occasional lug-around. That said, the included dovetail plate and the compact travel case do make the process less painful than hauling a bulkier Newtonian. Another practical consideration is power. The NexStar 8SE runs off a rechargeable battery pack, which lasts around 8 hours on a full charge. In a scenario where you set up for a late-night session and the battery dips below 20%, you'll either have to swap in a spare pack or plug into